you have to enjoy training. You have to enjoy kind of like how it makes you feel. You have to enjoy the small progress you make over time, because it's going to take you a while. And that's just a reality that you got to be used to.
Where do you want to get better? Why do you want to get better? I think having an intent of your workout for me has always been really helpful.
No matter how long it takes, it's still good for anybody to build that habit, but you don't build the habit by going so fucking hard that you can't repeat it again tomorrow.
So I think trying to really lower your expectations, or maybe just change some of your interpretation of your expectations. Maybe your expectations shouldn't always be through the roof. Maybe you can kind of toggle them and adjust them in accordance to what's realistic for you for that particular day. All right, I'm going to crack open some of these hard ketones from Keto Aid. I got a ginger mule. You guys have some too.
What, you doing the smaller one first?
Yep.
I want you guys to know this is not a sponsor. For some reason, whenever we pull something up, someone's like, I bet they paid you. No, they didn't actually.
The government pays us.
I like to flavor this. I think it tastes good, but we'll see what you guys think. I don't know.
Okay, so the
I'm not always a good barometer.
When you smell it, like you feel like there's alcohol in it.
That's good.
Yeah, right? And it literally says no vodka. I think it says no vodka because it smells kind of like it's vodka.
Okay, but if it smells like vodka, why would you drink it if there's no vodka in there?
We'll see how I feel in 30 minutes, because like you said, you get a buzz from this, right?
Yeah, these ketones are supposed to hit a little bit. I don't know the science behind it, but we'll have the guy on that runs the company. But basically, these ketones that are in here are supposed to be a little bit more relaxing. They're supposed to be something that kind of calms you down, soothes you a little bit. And my experience with it is I've had like 4 or 5 of these, and I've gotten, a little definitely felt like a buzz from it for sure. But even like 2 or 3 on an empty stomach, I was able to feel pretty good. So,
all right. Well, it's 11 a.m. somewhere, so I'll give it a shot.
Alcohol converts in the liver to a toxin called acetaldehyde, whatever. Ketone converts into the liver to ketones, a molecule in the body makes naturally during fasting that promotes longevity. Alcohol makes you hungry. Ketones suppress appetite. Goodbye munchies or drunchies. This is nice.
Yeah, maybe it's an alternative. I don't know. I just think it's great to explore, and it's great to try some different things. Also, sitting here on the table, I have like some of the regular ketones. These are great for fasting. I've been utilizing them more recently because I'm dropping some more weight for running, and it's been feeling like it's giving me some good energy. So.
Power Project family, if you're trying to increase your muscle mass, if you're trying to lose body fat, if you're trying to stick to your nutrition plan, if you're trying to get fit, pretty much if there's anything you're trying to do for your health, we know that sleep is the biggest determining factor to help you get from point A to point B. That's why we've been sleeping on 8 Sleep mattresses for probably more than 2 years now. And the main reason is the technology behind the Pod Pro. Now, the Pod Pro is like the Tesla of beds. It will change its temperature based off of how you're sleeping during the night. And if you have a partner that's sleeping on the other side, they could have their own temperature settings. We all sleep hot here, and I used to wake up in a puddle of my own sweat.
Gross.
That doesn't happen anymore because of the 8 Sleep mattress, and I've been getting the best sleep of my life. Now, if you don't want to replace your mattress, you can just get the Pod Pro cover, and you can put that over your current mattress to get all the benefits of 8 Sleep. But if you also need to replace your old nasty mattress, you can get the Pod Pro cover and the 8 Sleep mattress. Andrew, how can they get it?
Yes, you guys got to head over to 8sleep.com/Power Project, and you guys will automatically receive $150 off of your order. Again, 8sleep.com/Power Project. Links to them down in the description, as well as the podcast show notes.
There we go. It's funny. I got a homie, Lawrence, and whenever we talk, like every time we ever talk about alcohol, he's like, y'all are funny. I drink just so I can get fucking drunk. And I have homies who are just like, yeah, like if I drink, I'm looking to get drunk. It's not even that they they don't love alcohol. They just want to get fucking wasted. You know what I mean? And it's just like, damn.
I think some people don't admit that, but most people will drink not only till they get a buzz going, but they go beyond that. If you're around some of the people I'm around, they can drink, and it's like, you already had like 2 or 3, and that's a really good spot to be in. you know, but then it's like, oh, they're going for 2 or 3 more. Not sure what happened there.
I don't know another species that can match the tolerance of the middle-aged white woman.
Right?
The middle-aged wine-loving white woman is a different breed of alcohol drinker. Seriously.
They can drink that shit all day.
They can drink wine like it's fucking juice.
You know what was like the hardest thing? One of the hardest things I've ever done is I traveled with my brother-in-law and sister-in-law to New Orleans, and all we did was drink and eat. And
like drink alcohol and eat?
Yeah, I was dying because like we did like day drinking.
Oh,
And I was just like, I had to go back to the hotel. I needed a fucking nap. That was way harder than any training session I've ever done. Way harder than anything I've ever tried. That day literally was like, I've never been so fatigued and wiped out. And then the next 2 or 3 days I was fucked just from that one day. And I think I gained like 12, 15 pounds.
Yeah.
I mean, I was swollen up. It all went to my face.
You don't know what's that about day drinking. Day drinking just like makes you feel like, unless you like it, because again, some people like it. That's why they do it so
Day
often.
drinking's one thing, but day and night drinking is rough. Like you do it in a day, and then you got to like reboot and fucking do it again.
That's the best way.
Oh my God.
I can't think of a better way.
My brother-in-law's a champ at that shit. He's so good.
I used to hang around people that just weren't sober, period. Like
It's perpetually
just wake
drunk.
up and it's just like they're still hungover, so you gotta take care of it. But like, no, you're just like you're already so belligerent that you don't like you're not even you anymore, and they're just like, no, we're going back to the bar. Like what? Like
A couple
this is
days
crazy.
a couple days ago when I was working on the bottles for my brother-in-law's new company, one of the guys, he was drinking the entire day, and the guy's working hard. He's like in his 60s, and he's like, all right, boys, like I'm done for today. Like he went from 8 a.m. until fucking, I don't know, 6 p.m. or something. He worked the whole day, and he was working his face off. And he grabs like a 6-pack and he hops in his truck. I was like, I just watched him drink all day, and now he's hopping in his car and he was going to like work. He was going to like another job.
Oh my gosh!
I was just like, holy shit, this is amazing.
That's a man.
Yeah,
some
how does
would
he
say.
do it?
I don't know, but this
I don't get how you. No, seriously. Like, I want you to just think about how you guys would feel real quick if
Feel
you
like
did
shit.
that. Like, fuck the tolerance. I think it's just that tolerance, man. You're just used to feeling like that, so it doesn't even feel like
that's
shit
what I was
anymore.
gonna say. It's like almost the equivalent of when you don't work out and you work out way too hard. The next day, your whole body hurts, and that's exactly what a hangover would feel like right now.
Yeah.
Like at least for me, it would. I think they nailed the name on this because this does remind me of like high school parties where everybody would have like the hard lemonades.
Yeah.
It's kind of
That's what it really tastes like. That, and it's like bringing back some not memories or anything, but like the taste and the
PTSD.
feel, and yeah. So what I'm getting at is you guys might not see me for a little while.
The smell of shitty weed.
Oh yeah, worrying if the cops are going to show up.
reminds me,
50.
Like, beer run.
kind of like a White Claw. It tastes like that. It
never
tastes like
had
hard
one of
seltzer.
those,
Yeah,
but
it tastes like hard seltzer.
Definitely worth mentioning. These don't have any carbs in them, or very, very low amount of carbohydrates in them. Maybe like 2 or 3 grams or something like that.
And again, no
Has the new secret
alcohol.
macronutrient, Keto 11.5 grams per serving.
and no caffeine.
No caffeine.
Whoa.
He makes all kinds of stuff. It's worth
drink it
checking
right
out his
before bed.
website. He makes keto seltzers and all kinds of shit. You should definitely check it out. One of the things he makes is called snake water, and that's pretty interesting. It's not these kind of ketones. It's ketones that give you more energy, more like in this KE1 thing here. And it's mixed with some nootropics.
Sick.
Which I kind of dig. Feels good.
I dig it already.
Anyway, I was mentioning bloated faces, and we need to talk about Christian Guzman and what is happening with this guy. I know he's in a bulk, but man,
I mean, that is a
you
bulk.
check out some of the videos and some of the pictures, and then even the comments.
The comments
The
are
comments
rough.
are getting mean, but
I want to say Kristen's a super nice dude too.
Amazing guy.
He is an amazing human. He's done a lot for the community, but like this is a different type of transformation. I think he's trying to become an IFBB pro in men's physique. And if you're trying to become an IFBB pro in men's physique, you gotta do some different shit. There
You
aren't
gotta
many
commit.
guys. Yeah.
You got to commit all the way. So he's gotten on the gear, and then you also have to commit to the food. And so you're going to go through a phase where you're probably going to look a little bulky.
Now we're pulling up like the worst video. This is like this video he made as a joke, right? All right. But he like, damn.
I think it's just so different from him because we're used to seeing him so lean, so dialed in, looking like a goddamn supermodel half the time.
Yeah.
And then now he just looks like a sweaty bodybuilder.
I think that when he cuts down, like you'll see the Christian that you've been used to seeing in the past or more of that. But right now, maybe it's just like, gear. I'm not saying this from experience. I'm asking you, like, gear makes you hungrier, correct?
Oh yeah. And it definitely makes you bloated for sure.
Right? So, and someone who's like hasn't taken stuff before, if he's still eating a lot of food and now he's taking some gear, like that could lead to some bloating.
Yeah.
Mark, this is gonna sound really weird, but do you think that like I know there's more IFBB Pro shows than something like the Arnold or Olympia or something like that, but because he stayed natural for so long, do you think he maybe waited too long to pull that card out, and maybe he missed like the wave of like, I mean, I don't even know how old he is. He's younger than me, but like, you know what I mean? Like, healthy joints, healthy system, healthy everything to now pull it out to maybe get like that last
You
little.
think there's a gear window?
Yes, I genuinely think there's a gear window.
Okay. Well, one thing he has going for him is this guy's still really young.
Yeah, I know. That's why I was like, as I'm saying it, I'm like, shit, wait, he's only like
he's been 30. In the limelight for a long time, but I think he's like 30 years old.
I'll check.
And if he's any older than that, he's still like early 30s. Yeah, Christian Guzman has killed it for a really long time in business and in fitness, and he runs that huge ass bodybuilding show every year.
Summer shredding.
He's been doing just fucking phenomenal stuff with all that stuff. But no, I don't think he chose to dive into that too late. I do think that when you're younger, that is the time to like go full blast on maybe how much damage you're going to do to your body.
That's
whether in any sport.
He doesn't mean 17 though.
Let's preface this, guys. This doesn't mean I'm 21. Nah, chill. But yeah.
and I'm just kind of talking about any sport though too, like how hard you're going to go in soccer or how hard you're going to go in your sport.
Yeah, you're right.
There's young people, like if you look at stuff like track and shit like that, I mean, these people that are doing like 400 and 800 meters, I mean, these people are just annihilating themselves, but a lot of them are really young. And we're starting to see younger and younger people in a bunch of different sports just crushing it, just killing it. And so I think that there's something you can learn when you're younger that I think you may pay a bigger price when you're older. I guess is what I'm trying to say. And it kind of sounds like that's some of what you're alluding to, like maybe his liver and kidneys and stuff. Like he's just an older man. And so maybe taking them when you're a little, and again, he's only 30 years old.
Yeah, he is. I checked. He's only 30.
He's not fucking
30.
Not old, but potentially if he would have went on when he was like 23 or 25, but then look at, Sam Sulek, who's making a lot of waves. Then people are bashing him because he's way too young to be doing that stuff.
I think,
according to people, right?
Yeah.
It's very cool. It's very interesting to see. We just did that episode the other day about the UK steroid epidemic, as they call it. But it's very interesting to see how gear affects people differently. Because you'll see some guy hop on, right? Like, let's even use Pete Rubish as an example. Because Pete, like, he was on a lot of stuff, but it didn't ever seem like he looked. I don't know. It didn't affect the way he looked in too negatively a way. Our boy Kenny is on some stuff. He's not on anything crazy, but he just became a bigger version of himself. It kind of like looks like it affected him the way Sam Sulek is affected.
Went to his neck.
It went to his neck and his face, but like Kenny's still a ravishing, handsome dude. And then some people, it could just blow the fuck out of you and give you some acne and maybe some gyno. It's just like, you don't know what's going to happen to you.
Yeah, different people will turn that amount of testosterone into estrogen, kind of differently. And then also I wonder how much the diet matters. I think like Ronnie Coleman would get absolutely enormous in between shows, and he was always big, even when he was leaned out. There's some shots of our boy Pete Rubish. Congratulations to him, man, for switching over from powerlifting to running, but also coming off of stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know if people understand how like courageous and bold that is. That's a really awesome thing. That's something I haven't done. So my hat goes off to him. Tons of respect for him to be able to do that, because that wouldn't be an easy thing to figure out.
Is it something you haven't done? It's not something you're gonna like. I've heard you say you're gonna be on something for the rest of your life. So it's not something you really plan on doing, right?
I don't know. You never know.
Never know.
Yeah,
You did.
I might try to just come off for a little while and kind of see what happens. Why not?
Okay.
I mean, I am getting lighter anyway, and I'm right at the weight that I was when I was a kid. So this was kind of the weight I kind of cruise around at anyway. So
That's crazy.
I don't know. It'd be a really interesting challenge to see if I could hold on to. I know that I would lose. I would lose stuff. I would lose some of the vascularity and some of the leanness or something. But yeah, I don't know. Might pose a good challenge. But also, again, and I don't really view myself as being old, but I am in an age range where some people do choose to go on TRT. And so maybe at this point, because I've taken stuff for so long, maybe I need the TRT. But I don't really know. I haven't tried. So I'd have to come off for like probably almost 2 years to really know.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Because like coming off for like 6 months, it's like that's not really enough time. A year is starting to get into about the right amount of time, but then you need another 6 months or year to see if you can balance out your own hormones your own way. Since I was on previously for so long, I'd have to give myself a really good opportunity to really try it. You know what I mean? It wouldn't be, and then at that point, that would put me at, close to 50 years old, which isn't bad, because maybe I rejoin up with my true love, steroids, when I'm 60.
It's really cool, kind of like the time span you put that, because like if somebody on gear, I don't think most people would look at it in that way. Most people would be like, okay, I'm going to come off for a few months, see how I do. Come off for a few months, things aren't where they want it to be. Okay, let's go back on. Obviously, I'm supposed to be on, but you give that if you do choose to do that, that's going to be a potentially 2-year time span to give your body the time, and that's something to think about. That's really cool. Yeah,
it could be. I could be like over exaggerating that by a little bit, but I think I'm fairly close to kind of the right number. And it would be interesting to try. I mean, I'm not as attached to all of that as I was anyway.
Yeah.
So that part of me is dying off and diminishing all the time anyway. I don't care about like what I lift. I'm not overly concerned. I had a great workout the other day. I benched 185 for multiple sets and multiple reps. Didn't care. It felt good. And I was like, okay, feels good. Let's add weight. And I was like, no, this feels good. Stay right here. Like there's no reason for you to add any weight. This feels perfect. So a lot of the, heavier weights and just being heavier and bulkier. I never really cared that much about being like big necessarily. I did love lifting the heavy weights though.
The thing is, though, it's like when you were lifting heavy weights, it was in the context of like, this is my sport. You were getting ready to go on a platform and compete. So you had to, right? At this point, though, it's like you're running. I'm assuming you still want to maintain muscle. You still want to be big. So you're lifting to maintain that and to potentially like improve it in different ways. But you don't have to put 4 plates on the bar when you're benching to do that.
Right.
That's something to understand right there.
Let's see if we can bring up this clip. I found this pretty interesting because, a lot of people in fitness, they get real big and real jacked, and then we take pictures and with good lighting and so forth. And people are always kind of like sharing their best. And this guy is saying he's been training for 10 years. And I just thought it was like real authentic. And I think maybe having people give information like this and talk this way gives people a much more accurate depiction of what's real and what can maybe be expected. Like if somebody's not already starting out with good genetics or a background in sports, maybe they don't have any relationship to fitness. Maybe they're just kind of like coming off the couch and getting into the gym. It takes a long time to be able to get some good results. it takes a long time to get headed in the right direction. So let's see if we can play this video.
I've been training for over a decade now, and this is what I look like under good lighting and with a pump. And this is what I look like day to day in normal lighting without a good pump. And some people have messaged me saying that I don't even look like I lift. Ouch. I mean, I know that I don't have the most impressive physique, but to say that I look like I don't even lift is just so cruel. All jokes aside, the truth is that social media has skewed your perception of what a healthy and muscular physique looks like. Fitness influencers share their absolute best, not their day to day. And often they edit their pictures and use performance enhancing drugs without being honest about it. Anyways, so normal people, like yourself, become disillusioned when you bust your ass in the gym for a whole year and you still don't look like the Liver King. The truth is that transforming your physique takes a long ass time. Instead of focusing so much on what you want your body to look like and being disappointed when it inevitably doesn't, actively focus on celebrating the progress that you're making. I promise you'll be a lot happier and you'll enjoy the process. For more helpful health and fitness content like this, make sure to give me a follow.
Yeah, Dr. Joey Munoz. I'm digging his stuff.
Yeah, the guy looks like he's in great shape, but I think that
His big back.
yeah,
Saw those lats?
yeah, I think a lot of times, you know, people are just, we're starting to get used to seeing like bodybuilders and power lifters and people that are I don't know, just on a mission, right? The people that are kind of like full-time fitness people. And you know, what's the average dude look like that does get into some strength training and does take care of themselves? Probably start to look like that guy, which I think the guy looks awesome.
He does look great. And he's been at it for a while. One thing that he mentioned towards the end there is like, you got to, it's repetitive, but you have to enjoy training. You have to enjoy kind of like how it makes you feel. You have to enjoy the small progress you make over time, because especially if you don't plan on going on PEDs to get yourself bigger or stronger, which again, I don't think most people should even think about doing. It's going to take you a while. And that's just a reality that you got to be used to. Along with that, it's going to be much harder for you mentally if you start as an adult. Because when you start as an adult, you're just so aware of how behind you are, even though you're not really behind. Whenever you get started, it's just great that you're fucking getting started because you're becoming a healthier, stronger individual. But now you're just constantly comparing yourself to people who have maybe been at this for a decade or two, or like he said, some people are on PEDs, and it's like you can't be, you know, it's just hard to compare yourself to that.
Right. Yeah, I think having some goals, having some intention with what it is that you're doing, like where do you want to get better? Why do you want to get better? Do you want to get better for other people? Because that's an interesting one. You want to get lean to be able to post a good picture on social media. That's an interesting thing to explore, an interesting thing to think about. I think having an intent of your workout for me has always been really helpful, because then I can kind of pour my energy into getting a particular positive result that I wanted. So if I was lifting and I was powerlifting and I was trying to increase my squat, then I could say, okay, well, this good morning exercise is going to help with the squat. And then these following exercises are going to help with the squat in some different ways, these hamstring exercises, and just made everything make more sense. And I felt in those moments, I felt like I was really, truly lifting for the goal of improving my squat. I was lifting for myself to get better against the weights. It wasn't against an opponent. It wasn't necessarily against somebody else. It wasn't against anyone I was trying to compare myself to.
Another thing too, though, that I think it's kind of rough, because what he did say there is some people are on PEDs. Some people have been doing it for a very, very long time. But the thing is like, the nature of how you lift is going to also affect your outcomes, because many people lift like athletes lift. They approach their sleep, they approach their nutrition, they approach their habits, they approach their workouts with intensity of an athlete, not of somebody who's just trying to get a bit bigger and trying to look good because it helps you build your confidence and I want to look better to girls. There's a difference between training like an athlete with intention and intensity and purpose and consistency versus training because it makes you feel good. And that's not a bad thing, but you can't expect the progress and you can't expect the results of an athlete if you're not training like one, and you're not training like one for a long time, because just because you train like an athlete for a year doesn't mean you're going to get the results you're looking for. Many of these people who do look really good and they haven't been on PEDs, many of them haven't been doing that for just a year. Many of them have been doing that for like a decade, right? And then they have these really good physiques. And then if you say that that skews the reality, no, that doesn't skew the reality of what's possible for people. It just skews the reality of what's possible over a long period of time for someone who trains like an athlete. But most people don't train like an athlete for a long time. Maybe they'll do that for a week here, a month here, then they'll back off and go back to their old habits and then get back on the train and maybe just kind of have half like average type of intensity. And there's nothing wrong with average intensity.
It can get you great results from a health standpoint.
100%.
It can be great for longevity.
100%.
Your physique will improve. You'll look better. But you won't maybe have the best physique. Or you won't have the best physique even for yourself because you could potentially go a little bit harder. I think it's one of these situations where that you get in where it's like, well, how much pain are you willing to take? You know, how much, like I know pain and suffering, like those are really like drastic words when you think about the different pain and suffering people actually went through in the world over the years. And we're just talking about fucking lifting some weights and like eating some protein here and there. It's not that big. Yeah, it's not that big of a deal. However, you're going to have to like work hard, and depending on what the goal is, the work might be more and more challenging. You know, if you're trying to become a pro bodybuilder, or you're trying to become a purple belt in jiu-jitsu or something, and you're trying to do it, then you start to put a time frame on it. It's like, well, now we're talking about the likelihood that you're going to get injured is really high. The likelihood that you're going to have some major setbacks are really high. If you're like, oh, I'm going to get into jiu-jitsu, I want to see what it's like, I want to build some confidence with it, I'm going to go 2 or 3 times a week, and if I'm able to progress to some different belts, that would be cool. And seems like a black belt would be like really, really intense and crazy to ever truly figure out. But if I can make it past white belt, that would be pretty cool. If I can make it to blue and then maybe, I don't know, some point be in contention to do something further than that, then that would be amazing. But I'm just going to kind of leave it here. That's much different than somebody that has a fire under their ass that's excited to go in there and maybe try to compete on a world level or something like that.
Dude, it's like comparing, you know, because he mentioned something. He used the phrase like, you know, you're skewing your reality of what's possible for us normal people, right? And when he says normal people, he means someone who's training, you know, with a light intensity and training to feel good and training kind of consistently. You can't necessarily compare yourself and compare your results to somebody who this is their priority. Like they don't do certain things so that they can train. They'd rather than going out and maybe hanging out with friends or going out and doing certain things. I'm not calling these things sacrifices either, because some people say I sacrifice. I'm not calling these.
They
things
don't care about balance.
They don't, because the thing is this is their balance. They're not sacrificing anything. This is what they want to do every single day, and they'd rather do this than do things that most people would consider fun, like going out to dinner with their girlfriend or going out on the weekends with their friends. They'd rather be training. Hanging
out and enjoying yourself to them would feel like they're doing nothing, and they would feel like they're not making progress, and they'd have the same anxiety over doing that somebody else might get if you say, hey, let's go for a 3-mile run.
That's how that would feel for me.
Yeah,
I would much rather be
I was able to describe it that way.
Exactly.
I'm like, man, I got to get the fuck out of here.
You get it.
Yep. My HRV, I got to fucking get my sleep, and I got this tomorrow, I got that tomorrow.
But with that being said, some people would say, oh, you're fucking obsessed. There's no balance there. No, it's like, I think for people, it's what you want to do. But also, I think that you don't have to do everything those types of people do. You can take aspects of what they're doing and apply it to yourself. Just like whenever people talk about guys like Michael Hurd or people who are very elite at those things, you don't have to take every single thing that they do and apply it to your life. But you can take aspects of the way they train and aspects of like what they do, their form, their habits, and you can add those into your life and then see some improvement. Because there's the other side of this where some people talk about like the unrealistic expectations and like, oh, these people, they're doing things that normal people don't do. And they use that as it's somewhat of like a negative towards someone being too good at something, right? Or it's like, that's unrealistic, setting unrealistic expectations for youth, blah, blah, blah. Like, no, I think that instead of looking at like that, look at it as like, what few things can I take from this guy or this girl that can help my training have some of that? Because you're not going to do everything of what they're doing. If it's not what you enjoy and it's not like your life, then first off, don't even expect those results, but don't expect to bite off everything that they're doing.
The guy that we used in the post, the video that we just showed, that guy was a doctor.
Yeah, according to his at least Instagram handle, it's Dr. Joey Munoz.
What's his bio say? What's he a doctor?
I don't know. I didn't check.
So, for one person, becoming a doctor is much easier than another person.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe in this guy's case, maybe he had to put his whole life on pause to go after that doctorate. Or maybe he didn't. Maybe he was doing that simultaneously while doing some other stuff. It's kind of like, it reminds me of the difference between like a Peyton Manning and like a Brett Favre. Brett Favre was always messing around on the sidelines. Brett Favre notoriously had issues with alcohol and painkillers. And Peyton Manning seemed to be like, I'm laser focused on this shit. I doubt Peyton Manning was ever celebrating with teammates or anything like that, out past like a certain hour because he wanted to get his sleep and all that kind of stuff. And even just thinking of people that I know, thinking of the difference between Mike O'Hearn and Mike Ryan. Mike Ryan seems to like...
yeah, have some fun.
He has some fun. He lives life a different way. He's a single guy. He's been a single guy for a long time. They're both mid-50s. They both look amazing. They're both jacked. They're both super strong. Both guys are athletic and stuff like that.
Remember that tub of coconut oil that we saw at Mike Ryan's house?
Right in his bathroom. Yeah.
Why do you have all this coconut oil here? Like, okay.
Yeah, lubricant? I don't know what's going on with this. But one guy is like, they're both devoted. They're both way, way into it. But they do it differently. And so it's even hard to say, even within the confines of, trying to say that, because like somebody that gets outside of that like normal looking person thing, they might have just got there just because it was easier for them for any number of reasons. Maybe their background, maybe their genetics, maybe a combination of the two. Maybe they just made it kind of look easy and they got super jacked off of that. And then someone say, that's unrealistic physique. I think all of us can think back, remembering like if you remember when you were in school, there was always some kid that was like super lean in like 5th, 6th grade or something. And you're like, this kid's like shredded. You're like, what's the deal with this guy? And it wasn't really necessarily big or anything, but just like lean. And you're like, what the fuck is this? So for some people, it's just for that person to have a 6-pack, all they got to do is like jump up on a pull-up bar and do some like leg raises, and they probably are already partially there. Now they need to develop a body and get a little bit bigger maybe, and that's about it.
Yeah. So you guys have been talking about like maybe controlling some of the expectations. Like you're not going to look like this full-time influencer. If you're working an 8-to-5 job, you can't expect to have the same results in the same amount of time. But what are some healthy expectations people should be kind of focused on?
I think I think that first of all, I think you can do anything. You're going to be able to do anything within the means of like your genetics and not just your genetics, but your background. So you'll have some limitations, like you're just not 7'4". Like there's just certain things. It might be possible that you never throw a football 60 yards. It's possible that you never dunk a basketball. There's definitely these possibilities. But for the most part, everyone should be able to have a lean and healthy body, in my opinion. And it just might be harder for one person versus another. But some expectations are just improvement. There's no reason why you can't improve on where you're at now, on every single thing that you're doing in your life, not just your lifting, not just your health, but you should be able to improve on all markers of everything that you're doing, not necessarily all at once, but if you turn your concentration and your energy towards something, you should be able to improve upon it. So if you're like, oh man, you know, I kind of got like, I don't know where this happened or how this happened, but I got a little bit of a gut. This isn't good. And like my shoulders look like shit. There's no reason why you can't turn some of that around in a fairly short period of time. I think 3 to 6 months, you should be able to start to notice some progress. Maybe you're starting to lose a little bit of body fat. For most people, if they simply, without even really gaining muscle, if they just simply lost body fat, people would notice, people would recognize, and people would go, yo, what are you doing? Doing something different? I'm not encouraging people just to like not eat, but for a lot of people, if they can figure out a way to be on a diet that controls their calories, that allows them to still be kind of happy-ish throughout each day with their food, I think that would be a really good start. And then if you're able to get some lifting in, able to lift a couple times a week, I think within a year, you're going to be able to put on some good amount of muscle. How much? Kind of hard to say, but if you've never lifted before, I think 5 pounds is like super reasonable. And it's also super reasonable to lose 10 to 20 pounds in that time frame. I mean, imagine yourself right now. Just think of yourself right now. If you had 5 more pounds of muscle and 10 to 20 less pounds of body fat, like that would be huge. It'd be huge progress. No matter, even if you're 300 pounds, like that is a major transformation. Imagine if you're able to do that year after year.
And if you're someone who's trying to gain size and look better, I think really if you are newer to the gym, if you haven't been lifting for a very long time and you're not familiar with doing things in the gym, I think that you need to have like a routine that's set up, because you don't like, you'll do things that feel good, right? But then there's a lot of things that are left on the table that you just don't attack because like they don't feel good. Or it doesn't feel good for you to do that. So you kind of just avoid that. You do the things that feel good. You kind of go a little bit more intense one day and not as intense another day. And you need to have something set up where you can just work on that consistently. Because if you're trying to get those types of results, you have to be attacking this with a level of organization and intensity. And most people, if they don't have something that they can follow and that's set up in that way, especially newer folks, they're going to just kind of do what feels good. And that'll get you some results and you'll feel okay. But then you'll look at yourself after 6 months or a year, be like, damn, I really haven't gained much of anything. Or it's like, well, my arms are kind of bigger, but everything else is kind of normal. And you're like, why? Well, it's because you've just maybe been working arms 3 times a week and you've been half-assing everything else in the gym because you haven't really done something consistently. So if you're wondering why you're not getting the results you want muscularly, yeah, you can say your genetics and all that, but there's also an aspect of you are not organizing your lifting. And I think the way that we lift now, we'll go into the gym and do what we need to do, but we've also done so many different lifts that we can go into the gym and attack things well because we have an understanding of how to lift. And that's not something I think like anybody can do that. But if you're looking for results, that's not something you should do in the beginning.
I think also, as you're mentioning, you know, some organization. If you write stuff down, you'll be surprised and shocked at how much progress you can make. So the progress in the mirror and on the scale, it might be frustrating, might be annoying. I think most people have the most trouble with food, and not necessarily that people have trouble getting themselves to the gym, but people really struggle with food. But if you're writing down the exercises that you're doing, you're writing down that you did 3 sets of 12, incline dumbbell, 40 pounds, and the next week you're able to use 45 pounds for a set or two. That's huge progress, and that's motivating. It is. And you're like, shit, man, I might be able to use the 50s next time, or I might be able to do more reps or something. And the next time, maybe you do the 45s and you end up doing 3 sets of 15. That's tremendous progress, going from 12 reps to 15 reps and with more weight. And if you track that progress and you track your measurements of strength, I mean, some of this, like I always like to say that a lot of this is art and not necessarily a science, but here's where the science comes in. You need things that you can test, and then you need to test them and observe them over and over and over again. And if you went in the gym and you did your incline presses and you went from 40 pounds to 50 pounds, you fucking got stronger. You have literal scientific proof. You can circle it and show it to everybody. You can take a picture of it. You know for a fact that the work that you're doing is having you head in the right direction. You can do the same thing with the scale. You can do the same thing with looking at yourself in the mirror or some photos or something like that. But the photos and the scale, it's just, it ends up being a little bit tougher for people to navigate and negotiate that. It would just probably take someone a little bit longer to get used to that. But the scale and the photos will get better from you having improvements in your performance in the gym. And if you're not writing some of that down, it might be hard to really track that. If you don't have an organized schedule, setup, routine, then you don't really know. You're like, I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure how much stronger I got because I used that machine one week and I used that other machine another week and I used that other thing another time. And you might not even be sure of what's working, what muscles and stuff. So those are all things to pay attention to. I got stronger on this machine from week 1 to week 4.
Think about the benefits that people get from writing down their like food finally, and like finally seeing what they're eating every single day. Right. And then, wow, okay, let me stop eating this. And let me stop eating this. Oh shit, I lost this many pounds from just not drinking soda. It's the same type of idea, because when you're near to nutrition and then you start paying attention to what you're actually doing in terms of your nutrition, you can take things out and put things in. When you're near to exercising and then you can actually write down and pay attention to what you're doing in the gym, then you're actually, oh wow, I can start increasing my weight here, or I can add these movements in. I haven't been working my calves ever, and I've been wondering why I've had such small calves for 3 years. Oh, they don't grow. No, you just don't fucking work them, or you work them once every 2 weeks, right? So it's one of those things where it's like, start having some organization when it comes to your exercise, or you're going to be that person that looks almost the same a decade from now. Not almost the same. You look a little bit bigger a decade from now, but you could have gotten way more results if you were more organized.
Mm-hmm. I mean, even if they do look the same, that's still a huge win, right? Because people are usually gaining weight anyways.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's a whole nother side topic. But Mark, you had mentioned like, the diet being really difficult. What's something that people can start doing, like implementing right away? Because I just know when it comes to like, oh, I'm going on a diet, starts Monday. They're going to, eat like a rabbit, as they say. There's nothing but salads, and then they're just going to cut way back on calories, and maybe they're cutting back on the wrong calories or in consuming the wrong ones. But like, what can people like kind of switch things over to when it comes to like, oh, Mark said eat a little bit less. All right, here's what we're going to do.
I think it's a really interesting question, because sometimes there are people that can figure out a way just to eat less and to cut out some sugar, but most people need like a stronger challenge. If I was to tell you that lifting weights twice a week would be really beneficial to you, and I'd love to see you start doing that, most people probably wouldn't take you up on it, because it's like not enough. It's almost like I need to like, and not everybody, but a lot of people, that's the way their mind works.
Yeah.
I would have to say, hey man, I dare you to like start lifting every day and see what it does to you. And you'd be like, fuck yeah. And you might go take on that, because that sounds like a tangible challenge. Mm-hmm. If I told you, don't shop when you're hungry. If I told you, don't stuff yourself. When you are consuming a meal and it's a bigger meal, maybe leave enough room to where if you needed to or wanted to, you could jog around the block. There's a lot of things you could do that would be just these tiny little changes. It's you like eating 5 less scoops of your food for that day with some of these particular meals. But again, those challenges are like, they're not hard enough sometimes for some people. So there's a group of people that you can say, hey man, check your liquids that you're having, your sodas, your juices and so forth, and check the calorie content of some of those things. If those things have calories in them, it's not a great idea to drink them. And if you are drinking them, maybe it's something you have after a workout, you have some orange juice or something like that. Not a huge deal. If you are going to have calories in a drink, maybe it's only in a protein shake, things like that. And you start to give them these kind of small details. if you go and you want to get a sandwich, maybe try to use half the bread. Like you don't have to use all the bread. Maybe you don't get cheese, mayo, and bacon. It's like, well, that's just, you just added so many calories by choosing all three of those things. Maybe when you go to Chipotle, maybe you don't get sour cream, guacamole, and cheese. Like I know that combination is dope and it tastes really good, but maybe you try to cut back on one of those and replace some of that with some chicken or something like that. So there's kind of like these small changes that you can mention to people, and some people will boom, they'll take that and they'll come back to you in 4 weeks and they'll be like, dude, I've lost like 10 pounds. I can't believe it. Just by I cut out soda. I started paying a little bit more attention to how much, overall food I was eating. Instead of eating, a full sandwich, I was able to manipulate it. So, I mean, if you get a sandwich from Subway or even like Starbucks or something like that, you can usually get away with using half the amount of bread for a sandwich, and the sandwich is fine. It's still a sandwich. It's still really good. So there's a lot of things you can do like that. And then on the other side of it, probably the easiest thing that I love to try to tell people is just see if you can just cut out processed foods, cut out some carbohydrates from your diet. If I was just to try to leave everybody with a quick diet suggestion, it would be eat a gram per pound of body weight in terms of your protein every day, and then see if you can just really, really cut back on the amount of processed carbohydrates that you eat. Fruit and stuff like that's fair game, but ditch the rest of it.
And for those of you who are trying to gain muscle, because like there's a lot of people who are trying to lose body fat and get smaller, but those of you trying to gain muscle, still get that protein in like Mark mentioned. But when you're eating carbohydrates, try to get in rice, potatoes, try to just like get in carbohydrates that will help you out and that aren't processed carbs, because you can overeat processed carbs. And then if you're someone who has a really hard time gaining, like the weight on the scale just doesn't seem to be going up and you've been like 3 months, barely has really gone up, maybe having some processed carbohydrates in your diet is going to help you get that weight a little bit faster. Doesn't mean you should be going crazy with the cereal like you see some people doing or crazy with Rice Krispie treats, but adding some stuff in here and there just to help you get in some few extra calories if you find it difficult might not be the worst idea. There's also like a vertical meal, like Stan Efferding's vertical diet has individuals like, he'll have people make monster mash, which allows you to just get in a lot of carbohydrates very quickly and very easily since you're using broth at the same time. That can be helpful for people who are struggling to get bigger and gain weight.
Yeah. So I got my question because I was helping out a buddy of mine, and, I'm like, okay, he wants to lose body fat, and I'm like, okay, tell me everything you're eating. And he's telling me, and I'm like, wow, he doesn't eat that much, but not much of it was coming from like in the form of protein. So like skips breakfast, usually just a coffee, desk job. So lunch would be like, I guess I'll say like a keto-ish snack. So like a salami and cheese or that sort of thing. And then go home and have like a carb heavy pasta meal or something. And so in my head, I'm like, yeah, there's nowhere I would tell him to necessarily eat less. So what I told him was just like, whenever you incorporate some form of protein, whether it be from a snack or your dinner, like just double that. And that was my suggestion to him. Hopefully it works out. But like, it was tricky to be like, holy shit, like how am I going to tell somebody to eat less when they already don't eat much at all? Like it was really just like processed foods for the most part. They don't move much because they're always tired. And I'm like, well, shit, you're tired because you don't really eat anything. It was really difficult for me to like give a solid recommendation on eating less. I had to tell him to actually eat a little bit more. Of course, information I get from you, Mark, but like,
is this person skinny fat?
Yeah.
Well,
definitely.
You're not eating enough protein. You're not going to gain muscle, right? You're eating minimal food. So you have now slow metabolism while eating low calories. So if you're now trying to lose fat, the only thing that logically would make sense to you is to eat less food. But if you increase your protein intake and maybe almost keep everything the same for a little bit, you might see the scale go up a little bit and then it'll start dropping down. And you might see the scale go up a little bit because you'll be starting to gain a little bit of muscle, right? So it's like, it makes sense that the person's skinny fat.
Yeah. And I just wanted to bring that up because, that is what YouTube fitness would say, right? You search, how do I lose fat, gain muscle, or whatever it may be. And it's always eat less, move more. And I'm like, well, shit, this person doesn't do either. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's so hard for this person, but to get them and other people to understand what you just said, Nsima, I think is very important, and it gets missed a lot.
I saw this really funny clip from Joe Rogan, and it was with Joey Diaz.
Oh man!
And Joey Diaz was explaining like some diet that he was trying, and I think he was actually explaining Weight Watchers. And he was saying like how he did start to eat better. He's like, I started eating better, and like I wasn't making any progress. And he's like, and I actually started to gain a little bit of weight. So I was like, you know, what the hell's going on here? So he said he kind of looked it up, and he didn't really pay attention to like the information that well. And it said to eat bananas, so he was eating smoothies, right? And so he basically started looking at the information more, and it was like, oh, bananas are a freebie on Weight Watchers because fruit is a freebie on Weight Watchers. It doesn't count as a point. They use like this point system.
Yeah.
And their protein doesn't count as a point. They actually have like some pretty cool. I think they have some pretty cool information actually. Mm-hmm. But then he was recognizing like, shit, man, I made a mistake with eating all those bananas in a blender. So he's just switched it over, and he was able to lose a little bit of weight from that.
I think this is the clip. I'm pretty sure, according to at least a little bit of a description.
He's so funny.
So
he's the best. I don't know if that's where we want to get our diet advice from necessarily, but he brings up a good point.
And I wouldn't say it's necessarily like two totally different things, but when you blend like an apple, a banana, you add some liquid and maybe some juice or whatever, you're going to be able to get way more calories in, and it'll then if you
might be able to use that to your advantage. Like if you're trying to gain weight. Exactly.
But for someone who's trying to drop, like eating that apple and banana might be a better idea because it'll actually satiate you. Whereas blended, you can make it really, like most people don't just blend an apple and banana.
Yeah,
right?
Heck no.
It's like you add some fun in it, right? And it ends up being like 400, 500 calories just gulped down.
At least, right? Especially if you go to Jamba Juice, you're looking at like close to 1,000.
Yeah, Jamba Juice. They had sherbet. They had a lot of sugar in their shit too. Like after even one of the large Jamba shakes, usually you don't really feel full.
No.
And you just drink 800 calories.
Yeah. Those things taste good.
Yeah, it's a milkshake with a banana.
Does your friend lift?
So he's, again, like I said, he is like the person you talk to, whatever, they're explaining about their day. As he's talking, he starts yawning. Like, oh, I'm so tired. Like, you need to just get out and move and walk and that sort of thing. Doesn't have too much support from, the spouse, but, it's just the culture needs to change, and then the habits need to change. It's your typical person that's like, oh, I got to make dinner, whatever, money's tight. Let me just go to the drive-through. It's like, whoa, okay. Like there's a lot of things that need to be changed, but like I said, it was just in conversation of like, oh, how do I maybe switch these things around? Like, well, tell me, like if they're being 100% honest, like they're not eating much, they might be, for all I know, at work, eating the donuts that are there or whatever it may be. So it's, like I said, a lot to unpack, but it was just like a more general question for you guys, because I think there's a lot of people that are kind of stuck in that mode of like, well, I already, if I cut back less food, like what am I going to be eating? Or if so-and-so cuts back less food, like they're going to be eating almost nothing at that point. If they understand, right, they're going to be like, they already have little protein. I tell them to eat less. Then they're going to have like zero protein.
Probably the worst question you can ask somebody is when somebody's asking you a question and then you put it back on them and you say, well, what are you doing about that? It's usually like the worst question, because they're usually not really doing things that are productive for that. Like they're not working on it really. Like, oh man, my shoulder hurts and I can't move my arm this way. And you're like, well, how long has it been that way? And they're like, oh, it's been that way for, I don't know, about 2 years. And you're like, well, what have you done? And sometimes they're like, well, I've tried everything. Or they'll start to get defensive and say, well, I hung from a pull-up bar a little bit. I tried some of this. I was trying, to do some dips or some push-ups, but they didn't really try it for like long enough to get anywhere. And because they have pain, it's understandable. Like they don't want to move that area. And I think the same thing happens with like body composition and stuff. It's a sore subject. Like you feel a little attacked. And when we're talking about diet, it couldn't be a stronger attack on your life and your lifestyle and the way that you live your life.
Yeah.
You're kind of living your life like reckless, because you are, in some cases, you're putting yourself in danger because you're compromising your health. And in other cases, you're just making everything more difficult for yourself. Your jiu-jitsu, the other things that you love, that you say you love, that you say that you really like, that you enjoy, that you want to get better at. You're just like, every time you're just shooting yourself in the foot before you go to practice because you don't have the right nutrition. And that's tough. It's tough to hear that. It's tough. So you're like, fuck you, dude. Like, no, I love jiu-jitsu. I love lifting. It's like, no, if you loved lifting, you would change the way that you eat so that you can lift better and you can enjoy the results from lifting. Like this works in such a positive fashion, you can't even begin to understand it until you start to head in that direction. So when you eat better, everything else is going to improve massively. Your conditioning is going to improve, your strength is going to improve, your body composition is going to improve. Everything will fall in line from that, and just your overall health in general. I was watching one of the guys that has been on Rogan before. I think he was a psychiatrist, and they were asking him, like, what's the best thing for someone to do to really help them with depression and help them with anxiety. And he's like, food and sleep. And you don't need to be a doctor to know that. Like, we know that, but life can be messy and things can be difficult sometimes. So, when someone asks you a question point blank and they say, hey, what time do you get to bed? You're like, 12:30, time you waking up? 7. Like, fuck, man. Well, that's gonna be hard. It'd be hard to figure out that lifestyle. That'd be hard for anybody. If that'd be hard for anybody, regardless of their genetics and regardless of performance enhancing drugs, it'd be really difficult for someone to make progress with a schedule like that.
Yeah. I'm just thinking of like, that would be and the thing is what you just mentioned right there, the staying up super late, getting up, not getting sun, going about your day. The health habits kind of just become something that you kind of do sometimes, and you'll feel as if you're maybe attacking it. You'll feel as if, okay, no, I'm working out, I'm taking care of my food, I'm doing this. But the thing is like, even though you're doing it, there's no intention behind the way you do it. So because it's kind of just like haphazard, you're doing it and you feel like you're making an effort and you're not getting the results, and you think to yourself, this isn't working. But it's not working because nothing you do is currently intentional and consistent. It's just things that you sprinkle in here and there. Like, I have a guitar, and I have sprints where I'm just like playing it every day. Then I have like something gets busy and I don't touch it for a few weeks. I'm just like, fuck, I'm still just doing some scales and some shitty songs. Why am I good at the guitar yet? And it's like, because I'm not playing it every fucking day.
Yeah. Instead of getting my son high, maybe you should play the guitar with him. Or maybe you guys can get high and play the guitar together.
There you go.
But it's just like that. It's like, no, but do you know, like, I mean, we've all had like things that like, ooh, I want to get good at this. Or like maybe 2 years ago, maybe it was that or a year and a half ago, I saw the kettlebell juggling stuff and I was like, I want to get good at this. And I tossed the kettlebell for a few days. I was like, man, I didn't, because I didn't put any intentional, consistent effort towards it. When I finally put some consistent, intentional effort towards it, doing it a little bit every single day, I was able to progress, right? Because I actually put intentional effort towards it. And it's the same thing with your nutrition. It's the same thing with your exercise. If you're just half doing things, and I'm not saying that you have to do it 3 hours a day in terms of the gym or whatever, but if you're not consistent, you cannot expect the results you're looking for. You have to have some consistent effort into it, and it doesn't need to be a long time, but just a little bit every day, or changing your habits a little bit every day. That'll get you in the direction you're looking to get to. Nootropics. Every single biohacker and their mother talks about the benefits of lion's mane or alpha GPC, blah, blah, blah. We have this mix of supplement, but no one really tells you how to analyze what you actually should be trying to take or what problems you may have. That's why Andy Triana has made the Nootropics ebook now on our website at powerproject.live. Now, we've had Andy on our podcast multiple times, and he's educated us on so many different things along with nootropics. But in this ebook, he goes in depth on how to analyze what your problems may be specifically and how to utilize nootropics to help fix those issues or to help progress in certain areas. Like if you're wanting to speak better, think faster, communicate better. There's so many things he goes in depth on in this ebook, and you can get it now on our website at powerproject.live. The link's in the description along with the podcast show notes.
Not everything's a cold plunge, you know? Like you get in a cold plunge and you're like, I'm going to try this thing out. I got to see what this is all about. And you get in there and it's like mind altering immediately, immediately mind altering, immediately, making you kind of question all kinds of stuff. Like you're questioning, you know, how like quote unquote tough you are. You're questioning how long you can stay in there. You're questioning like, is this safe? Like, is this okay? You know, I'm starting to breathe hard. Like this is wild. You're trying to control yourself. You're trying to pretend that it's not freezing, but it's freezing. And then when you get out and, you know, once you dry off and once you calm down, the effects of that are insane. Like it can't be really compared to anything. It's like, I would say it smashes the shit out of a cup of coffee and even kratom. Like it smashes all those things. The way that you feel after that, sometimes your body is even like so numb. I don't know if you guys experienced this before, but like your body is super numb and you can move in ways that you normally can't move. Like I can like jump and run and like do all kinds of stuff. Like first thing in the morning, normally my takes me a while for my body to get kind of warm and to get kind of loose, and I can move better as the day progresses. But if you get in that cold plunge first thing in the morning, it's like, boom, it just changes everything about you. The problem is like some of the stuff that we mention sometimes, like getting better sleep, getting some sunlight, like they don't always automatically make you feel better. I know for myself, as soon as I started working on my sleep a few years ago, it actually would make me somehow, I don't even know how this is possible, but make me feel worse. I'd feel groggy. And I was like, I need to go back to bed. And I'd go back to bed and I'd wake up and I'd feel like shit. And I'm like, this is weird. So there was a lot of resistance there. There's a lot of friction there for me to, you know, finally get my shit together to where I was sleeping like appropriate amount of hours. And the same thing is going to happen when you try to go on a walk, when you try to get some sunlight, especially if you're not in shape, you don't feel good. If you walk too much, it hurts your feet or your knees or your back. It's all going to it's going to suck. It's not going to feel good. You're going to listen to us. We're talking about it. Other people are talking about it. And you're going to go and try to apply it. And you're going to go, I don't understand what the fuck those guys were talking about. Stuff's stupid. It didn't make me feel any better. Yeah. Lifting weights didn't help my depression. It sucks. And it's like, well, we're not saying it's going to fix anything, but it should help and assist, but you probably need to get into it for a long enough period of time. Again, it's not going to be like the cold plunge. Like the cold plunge might have life-altering impact right away. But some of these other things are going to take longer.
Yeah. When do you guys think the, motion is the lotion? How long do you think it takes for somebody to start gaining some momentum, with their, like, we'll just say going to the gym and that sort of thing?
I mean, I don't know, maybe there's a blind spot here, but I think that's individual on individual. It depends on the person, the type of stuff they're dealing with. But no matter how long it takes, it's still good for anybody to build that habit. And the thing is, I think the mistake that people make is, like you mentioned, they do a little bit too much too quickly. They walk, and that's necessary. It's necessary if you're someone who doesn't take walks often. Maybe you are feeling pumped on a day and you walk for an hour and a half, and the next day you're like, fuck, my feet are sore as hell. But it doesn't mean walking is bad. It just means like, okay, let's just walk for 20 minutes instead. And let's do a 10 to 20 minute walk each day instead of an hour and a half in one day. And I think people will learn that when they start working out too, because the excitement is going to be there and you will go hard. There will be a session that you bite off way too much more than you can chew. And the next day you feel like you tore a hamstring or you feel like your pec isn't connected or some shit. You just feel bad. instead of your brain connecting that to gym bad, must stop, it's like, just back off a little bit and get in there, get a pump, get some blood, feel good, and get out and do it again the next day. It could be a 30, 40, 50-minute workout instead of it being a 2-hour workout. If you can do that consistently, and you can, over time, just challenge yourself a little bit more with certain workouts, that's how you build the habit. But you don't build the habit by going so fucking hard that you can't repeat it again tomorrow.
It's going to take a while for you to, like, for most people to have some of this stuff feel good. You know, you remember your first couple days of jiu-jitsu. I think you're coming up on a year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes this stuff just, like, it doesn't feel great. I can think back to, I mean, nowadays I'm super used to training with different people. It doesn't really matter as much. And, but when I was young, I remember, like, sometimes I would, like, work out with somebody new or different, and it would just, I mean, it would just kill me. Like, I would be sore forever, even after I've already been training for a handful of years. So it might take people, like, a long time to adjust to it. But I like what Nsima was saying is, you got to be kind of cautious of not overdoing it. You don't want to give yourself, like, negative feedback. You want to give yourself positive experiences. And if you can kind of think of the gym, you're going there to feel better. Like, as you get more used to it, you can start to think of it whatever the hell way you want. But in the beginning, I think that's a great place to start. Is I'm going here to help myself to feel better about myself, to feel more accomplished, and so forth. And if you can find an exercise or a movement that you like enough to concentrate for a couple of sets to get yourself winded, I really think that breathing is so critical. And I think that over the next couple of years, we'll start to hear more and more people. We have had people talk about breathing and breath work and stuff like that. But you think about, again, what a cold plunge does, getting you to breathe, you know, that Wim Hof style, or any breathing practice. What is it really doing? It's just mimicking hard exercise. So if you go out and run some hills, or you go out and you find you find something at a gym that you like to do, maybe you're on, like, a leg press or a leg extension, and you get yourself to that point where you're like, I'm kind of warmed up, but I'm not really into this that much. I halfway want to go home. Just don't. Just don't go home. Don't quit. Don't give up. Just say, look, man, if you can concentrate for the next 10 minutes, this is going to make you so high that you won't even understand how good you're going to feel, because you'll get high from the lifting. And I think you get high from the breathing. Greg Glassman was mentioning how he felt that had to do with oxygen with some of the runners, people getting, like, runner's highs and stuff. I don't know if they really know how or why these things happen, but I think that it has a lot to do with your breathing. So get yourself to that point where you're breathing hard. Put yourself up against the wall. Like, make something kind of difficult. Like, what difficulty do you have in your life? What are the things you have in your life? How hard is your life? Like, if your life's not hard, well, make that shit hard, because life will get hard at some point, and life will be easier to deal with the harder that you train, in my opinion. And if you have hard shit that you dealt with before, use that. Fucking dig deep. Use that resentment. Use some of that stuff. It's okay to use some of that here and there as a fuel. Use a little bit of that and make it difficult, and do, 3 sets of 15 reps of leg extensions with short rest period in between. Get that burn going. And when you feel like you can't do any more reps, do some more. That's the perfect spot to be in. They said Muhammad Ali didn't count his reps. He's like, I only counted when it started to hurt. And he said, no pain, no gain. And I think that's really where the gain happens. And the gain happens not just in your muscles, but in your mind. And I'm not saying, like, blast yourself and fucking overtrain and all that stuff, but just for a couple of sets, see if you can kind of sit in the pocket the way an NFL quarterback does when a 300-pound person is bearing down on him, and see if you can, still be brave enough to throw the ball over the middle.
The yin and the yang of this shit is so fucking hilarious, because literally we go from saying, you want the gym to make you feel good. Don't bite off more than you could chew. You don't want to feel way too sore the next day. do 3 sets of 15. And when you fail, do 5 more reps. That's where it is. It's like, but the thing is I get what you're saying. And that is a good thing to do.
You got to get yourself at least close to that.
Yes, because, and the next day after doing that, your legs are going to feel kind of fried, but the thing is just not to have your mind say that's bad. I think it takes a while for people to build the habit of like, I'm going to stress my body out today. And the next day I might feel a little bit beat up, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think like newer people, if you can build that, that's going to be really good for you in the long run. Because like, for example, I think it's also good to find things that you can do that with that potentially won't have that much of like a ramification for the next few days. I do that a lot with sauna. I'll have 1 or 2 sauna sessions during the week where I'm just like, I'm going to stay in here. And once I get uncomfortable, I'm going to stay in here for 15 to 20 more minutes. Because I know like, okay, next day I might feel a little bit drained, but I personally think that there is a benefit to having a few times a week, something that I can do that will make my body feel like angry or make my body feel really stressed. Because like, I'm not going to do that in jiu-jitsu. Right, I'm not gonna like. I'll roll every single round. I might roll a little bit harder, but it's gonna be. I'm not gonna do anything that's gonna get me injured there. In the gym, I'm not gonna have my gym work. I might do some things that are kind of hard, but I'm not gonna destroy myself. But I can do that with a sauna where my heart rate. Usually, I'll leave the sauna when my heart rate gets to like 115, 120, and that'll take maybe like 30 minutes. But I'll leave when my heart rate gets to like 150 or 155, and that'll take maybe 50 minutes. And that is extremely uncomfortable because for the last 20 minutes in the sauna, my body's like, just leave, just leave. And then my body naturally wants to go to the fetal position and sit there because that's more comfortable in the fetal position. I can like, and that's where it's like, okay, just stay in here a little bit longer, right? I think that's good. That's a good stress test. And if you can enjoy things like that, where it's not injuring you, but it's pushing your body, that's a good thing to do.
Okay, how do people handle, because when it comes to like, okay, I'm going to start this workout program or whatever, this bro split, days off and recovery, how do they approach that?
Dude, I think if there's anything that we've learned, it's like no days off, bro. But one thing is like, if you have your program in your days off, you should still try to, I think, still figure out ways to like get your body moving a little bit. Take a walk, sit on the floor, get in some positions. I think this is really important for the jiu-jitsu athlete, for sure, right? If there's a day you're not doing jiu-jitsu or you're not in the gym, then still figure out a way to like, if you have a slant board at home or at work or something, get your knees into some deep ranges of motion, sit down on the floor while you're doing some shit and get yourself into like kind of like a long range position and just keep your body moving on these off days. Because if there's anything that's fact, it's that movement and blood flow to these different areas is going to aid you in recovery. So not only is walking going to be beneficial, but can you do things that gets a little bit extra blood to your adductors? Can you do things that gets a little bit extra blood and maybe synovial fluid to your knees, which just means getting into a deep squatted position and doing something? That's going to help your recovery of these areas. Not like some people think of rest days, they think of resting. Like I'm going to go to work or do whatever. I'm not going to do much of anything else. No, use this day to just naturally use your body and move it into some different positions. That's going to help recovery.
How do you guys feel if you have a full-on off day?
I don't like it. If I really end up not doing anything, no, I personally don't feel better afterwards. I feel like I'm unused.
I feel like I need some like fucking SSRIs or something.
I've definitely gotten better, but I feel like the momentum, like I lose a lot, and then I get upset at that. But yeah, no, I don't love it.
Yeah, I think like a reinterpretation of an off day, I think is important. So like, maybe you don't go to a jiu-jitsu class, maybe you don't lift necessarily for the day, but maybe you do an exercise in the gym, or maybe you watch a bunch of film, a bunch of video of jiu-jitsu. Maybe you go on a walk. Maybe you do some of the things you're mentioning. Just use your body for that day. Maybe there's like an activity that you're going to do with your family, and you're like, well, that's my activity for the day. Like the last 2 weekends in a row, instead of doing my longer runs, which are supposed to be like 2 hours or 3 hours, depending on the schedule, I just hiked. And I'm like, these hikes they're plenty. I'm at high altitude and the fucking thing is pretty much straight up for like 3 miles. This is a different activity. It's not running. It's not quite as intense as running. My heart rate doesn't go to the same amount, but it's close enough. So I think that recovery is critical. People backing off a bit is important. You have to remember you can't make something out of nothing. So if you are, if you're working every single day towards your goal, and you're trying to like lose body fat simultaneously, and you're not giving yourself the nutrients that your body needs, you're now day 3, day 5, day 7, you're going to start to kind of feel like crap. And you're going to feel like you don't have the energy that you need in order to be motivated. So I look at food and sleep and any other form of recovery, even a day off. They're all motivators. They can also be demotivators. Like you can train so much that it annihilates you and you don't want to train.
That's not a good place to be.
You can eat so much that you don't want to train, and you can undereat to the point where you're like, I don't want to train. So you have to be careful, and you have to really figure out exactly how to how to deal with all that.
Ain't that a bitch though?
On some, I know.
Just move more, eat less.
On some of the days where you maybe aren't doing the thing that's more intense, maybe you can start to learn, like, do you perform better if you eat more on the days where the intensity is higher, or do you perform better when you eat a little bit more on the day where you rest more, and then the next day your intensity is better? You know, you got to kind of start to really pay attention to a lot of these things, and I think you could start to pinpoint it really well, and you can start to learn it really well if you weigh yourself. You start to pay attention. Like after a while, you should start to say to yourself, oh, I bet I weigh this. I bet I weigh 222, you know, and you just know that you weigh that. When you start to get more in tune with all those little things, and you're going to start to be able to figure out if you need more fuel, more rest, less rest. If you wake up in the morning and you look like more jacked than normal and you're lean and stuff, that means that something happened in the last couple days that made your body more efficient. Don't know exactly what the hell it was, but it was like a combination of food and sleep and less stress and those kinds of things.
Yeah.
When you wake up like that and you feel like Superman on that day, those are good days to push it, but it's also good to try to pay attention. What the fuck happened in the last 3 days? How did I get here? How did this happen?
Got to figure out what that is and bottle it.
Yeah, right.
Whatever the hell that is.
Guys, summer is here and it's time to get some new footwear. I'm not talking about these. Flip-flops suck. I used to love them, but they are messing with the way you walk, and they're actually messing with your feet, because every step you take in a flip-flop shortens the big toe, which can have some long-term ramifications. That's why we have been wearing our Power Sandals, and this is actually version 2 of our Power Sandal, which is live now at powerproject.live. It is 0 drop. It has a German leather footbed, so it's comfortable as fuck. It has a Vibram sole, which is going to last you thousands of miles to walk in. You can run, you can hike, you can walk, you can lift in these sandals. And because of the heel strap, it's going to stay connected to your foot so that when you run, which you can literally run in these sandals, or when you walk, every step is just like if you were walking barefoot. We love these things, and that's why we've partnered with Shama to make our version 2, which is much cleaner than our version 1. Both versions are on the powerproject.live website, so get your new summer footwear, the Power Sandals. Peace.
So let's say somebody, they get on a pretty good streak. They're just like, damn, those guys on the podcast were right, and I'm feeling good after 6 months. But then all of a sudden, they do wake up tired. They don't want to work out. Or for whatever reason, now that extra motivation is gone. Where do you guys think are like the maybe 2 or 3 places that they need to like look into and possibly address first?
I would say trying to switch things up a little bit is a really good idea. Maybe a different environment, different gym, different place to run, different place to walk, whatever the thing is that you're doing. I think all those things are really helpful, and I think they can help a lot more than you would think. And also think that for me, a huge motivator is nostalgia. So sometimes it's good just to go back and play the same old fucking CD that you listen to forever, and just, you know, play that song or whatever that is. It's amazing. It has some sort of soothing powers over you. It puts you back into a place. It helps with, I don't know, putting you back into a place of like remembering where you were or how old you were when these particular songs came out. Or there's many different ways to have nostalgia that way. But I think that those two things I think can help a ton with just kind of keeping things fresh. And the last thing I would say is just like, just do something different.
Yeah.
You know, just do something different. Like you're tired of going to the gym and like you don't want to deadlift, like do a farmer's carry. Mimics it good enough. It's the same fucking thing pretty much. So yeah.
If you suddenly wake up with like no motivation and you're tired and you feel beat, that's a sign that like just do something small for the day. Because there are days that I wake up like that, and it's not like once every 6 months. It's like once every, sometimes once a week, sometimes once every 2 weeks. Like it'll happen where there's just a day I wake up and I'm like, it's not there today. So what do? I'll still do my small microdosed habits. I'll jump a little bit during the day. I'll walk. I might go to a sauna and just not even sit there for long. Maybe I'll just sit there for like 15 minutes and let my body sweat 15 to 20 minutes and get the fuck out. And then maybe I have some equipment at home, so maybe I'll just do some things and get just a small pump.
And sometimes that turns into a bigger workout, right? Sometimes you start going and you're like, oh, that actually doesn't feel as horrible as I thought it was going to.
It could. And then it could also, many times, it's just like, it's a chill day. But even though it's a chill day, there are so many habits that have been done. I was able to get a little bit of a sweat in. I was able to get a little bit of jumping in. I was able to get a walk in. I was able to get a little bit of a pump with like some stuff. Since I have equipment at home, some kettlebells, I was able to get a little bit of a pump. It was still a productive day for my body, because the sign, if I wake up and I'm feeling like that, that's a sign where my body's like, don't get a crazy workout today. You know what I mean? And I'll follow those signs, so my workout won't be shitty, but I'll still do something that makes, like you mentioned, you're like, well, sometimes when you don't do anything that day, you feel like you've lost momentum. Let's just do a little something to give your body the signal and get some good sleep. And the next day you'll probably feel better.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, the diet and nutrition's are sleep and diet are the two like obvious ones that you guys already talked about. And that's where I wish, like when I was first starting, that I like tracked and logged those things. Because I just remember days where it's like, you know, Mark, you were mentioning like, oh, I got the 50s up on the incline press, and then you got the 55s, and then 60. Like, holy shit, dude, next week I'm throwing up those 65s. And I remember getting stuck there and being like, oh shit, it's over. Like, that's it. I'm never making gains again, you know? But then it's like, well, maybe the night before I did or didn't sleep well, or maybe I didn't eat well. And it's like, man, I wish I had knew all of this stuff and I would have not have cared at all. But wish I would have known to be like, hey, you got to pay attention to everything kind of all the time, right? It's not just like, nope, 5 a.m., we're going to the gym. And that's when I put in all my effort. It's the, you know, what do they say, the 23 other hours of the day that actually make a huge impact.
What do you guys feel when it feels like you don't have it for a particular day? Can you describe the feeling?
It's like, wow. I can taking it right from Zaragoza, because I think I heard Andrew say this, but it kind of feels like a little bit of a cloud. It feels like a little bit of a cloud. Like you wake up and it's just like, things aren't as bright. You're moving a little slower. You go outside and it's just like, That's how. That's kind of how it feels. And mentally, it also feels kind of like there's a cloudiness mentally, right? So when I feel like that, I'm just like, all right. It doesn't mean I do nothing. It just means I do the minimum and see where that takes me. Because, like you mentioned, it might take you a little further, or it might just allow you to do that. But at least I know that if I can get some sleep and recover, next day's going to feel good.
Yeah, just because there's a cloud doesn't mean you need to hide. You can maybe just get a fucking raincoat or an umbrella and figure out a way to deal with it. Or you can be like a little kid and just run around and splash around in the puddles, right?
Good splash, yeah.
I kind of feel the same thing. Sometimes it feels like, to me, it feels like I try my many tricks and there's like just nothing there. There's like nothing behind me for the day. And you're like, where is that normal? Normal is like this like drive to go do something.
Yeah.
And now you're like, I don't care. And it's like, wow. Like, okay, normally I don't care, but normally I at least care a little bit.
Yeah.
And you're like, fuck, man, there's nothing there. And you have your cup of coffee or you do whatever you normally do in the morning routine. And you get through some of that and you're like, oh, still there's nothing there. Go to the gym, maybe put on some music, try to start to work out. And you're like, there's nothing there. Then you have like an energy drink or something and there's just nothing. And it's a really interesting feeling, but I think it happens to everybody. Not just people that work out, but I think it literally happens to everybody. But I think when you're trying to exercise or trying to make yourself do something a little bit more challenging, it's even more frustrating because you're like, I know I can't really feel this way and still perform the way I want to because it's nagging. It's almost like being really hungry. Like you can't concentrate. You're like, oh, I just want to eat. I've actually, this is like super fat guy powerlifter thing, but like sometimes I'm on a run and like, all I want to do is stop right now and eat. I just want to fucking eat.
I know what you mean.
It's like too distracting, you know? It's too distracting.
Yeah.
I get like that on my way to jiu-jitsu sometimes in the morning where I'm like, oh, dude, I hope this hunger just disappears. And it always does because once you start rolling, you don't really think about anything. But yeah.
Surviving.
Yeah. So for me, it feels like I'm under not very dense water. Like I'm under like a small layer of water, right? Not completely submerged, but like everything's just slow. And so like when I'm rolling on the mats, it's like, oh, I know he's going to pass my guard this way. I should react to it. Nope. Too late. Like, well, fuck, here we go again. Like stuck, getting, stuck in side control all over again, just like I was the last roll, whatever it may be. And then for me, it seems like the more I try, the more pressure gets put on. So if we were to look at it like, oh, you wake up in the morning, you got rain boots on, you'll be just fine. And you try something, it doesn't work. Well, now the water's going into the rain boots, so I got to put on, rain pants. And then you try something again and it doesn't work. And now that water fills up to like your waistline. It's like, well, shit, now I need a whole coat. And so like you try all these things and it feels like it just gets worse and worse almost instead of the opposite. And like, that's when I kind of know like, all right, it's just not there today. That is okay. Before I used to think that it was like the end of the world. And now I'm like, just chill out, dude. It'll be there tomorrow or the next day or the next day. Just keep doing your things because you understand now all this shit's going to amount to something eventually, even if it's small 1% of your 100%.
I hate the life is jiu-jitsu things, but
what are you talking about, bro? Life is jiu-jitsu.
But one thing that you said that like actually makes perfect sense, and this is like the style of how I roll on those types of days. There will be certain days where everything's feeling good, where I'm just like, okay, I can just like, when there's resistance against something that I'm doing, I'm just going to go towards that resistance and barrel through a little bit. I feel like I have the energy to just kind of barrel through smoothly. I'm not going to hurt anybody. Just, if my opponent's resisting me, I'm just going to barrel through it. And there are certain days where I go into jiu-jitsu, I'm like, today's going to be just chill rolls, where I'm more of like a fucking squid in the fact that like, if somebody puts pressure on me, I'm going to avoid that pressure. I'm going to like move in ways and do things that cost me way less energy. I'll still get to the outcome of tapping my opponent, but it wasn't that. It was me just like kind of just like flowing through. You know what I mean? It's funny how like the way you roll and the way what we're talking about here, the way you do things on that day is like, I know you have the quote of like lean into the resistance, but you kind of just like, you go around the resistance. Right?
Yeah, some days. Or you go around it, or you kind of almost like go with it.
You go with it. Exactly.
You just let it.
That's perfect. You go with it. Yeah.
It's like kind of the Buddhist thing, like the middle way. Like you just kind of like let it chill for the day. It's gonna be fine. It's a day. It's a moment. It's and it's hard to. You're like, no, I'm trying to get better. I want to do this, and I got to do this by this time. And but when it's not there. I know firsthand, and this happened several times. I mean, I've gotten hurt before, like really, really injured, like badly, by trying to do stuff that it wasn't in the cards. And I knew it wasn't in the cards, and I still tried it. But you're just trying to salvage the day, turn it into something that it wasn't meant to be. And sometimes it just happens. So try not to chase after it too hard.
Yeah. Did you guys ever have something like this especially in powerlifting? But like, so a couple weeks back, I started working X guard. Once it started making sense, I was like, okay, I can do this. And then like the first day I kind of quote unleashed it in live rolls. I kept hitting it really well. Like it was working on everybody I tried it on. And then follow up the next week, it's no longer working on anybody. And it's not because it's like the same people, it just wasn't working. I need to control my excitement when something's working, because the following week when it doesn't work, it's like equally or even worse excitement. Have you guys ever had something like that where like you're benching and all of a sudden it's like, oh, you know, whatever it may be, 600 pounds or whatever on the bench next week is going to fly off me. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, damn, what happened?
It's happened a bunch of times. You
Yeah.
think you have something figured out and you just don't. You know, you're like, oh, I think I got this figured out. Or, I mean, I remember in football in particular, doing certain things to people, like certain moves, and they would like, you know, it'd work over and over and over again. You're like, oh, this is going to be great. I'm going to use this in the game. And you go to do it in the game and it just like has no impact on the guy at all. Like it didn't stop him at all. And you're like, oh. Shit. Like, whoops. So yeah, shit like that happens all the time. I think it's just to keep you humble and to keep you working, you know, and to keep you, you know, having a good understanding that like some stuff's going to work on some people and that's what I find interesting about what you guys do, is that you guys are, you know, we could say don't compare yourself to other people, but you guys are in competition against another individual, and you are getting compared to that person, at least in those some of those moments. Mm-hmm. And so that is super interesting to put your knowledge of what you learned in the previous weeks up against this other guy that who knows how he learned some of his stuff or where he learned some of his stuff, but now you're colliding together and you have to have this battle, so to speak.
It's interesting because like there are the days where everything's clicking and everything's at 100%, whether it's in the gym and all your lifts feel just like you feel explosive as fuck. Everything's moving. You may hit some PRs. You in jiu-jitsu, everything feels great. X guard's clicking. You're sweeping people right and left. You're invincible. And then there are the days that you go into the gym and it's like you're at 60 to 70% of capacity and you try to lift certain things. Maybe you fail a lift. You're like, wow, I haven't failed that in a long time, right? But the thing is that's the natural ebb and flow of anything athletic. It's not just the gym. It's not just the gym where like everything's 100%. It's any type of athletic endeavor you're trying to go towards, even running. There are probably days, Mark, where you have a 2-hour run planned and in mile 1 and 2, you're like, fuck. What is going on? Why are my legs so heavy? Why am I breathing so heavy?
Like only 10 minutes passed.
What? And I think the thing is we shouldn't expect every day to be that 100%, everything's clicking, I'm in the fucking matrix type of day. Mm-hmm. We should appreciate those days when they come. And on those days, maybe we can allow ourselves to push the envelope a little bit because we got it. But on the days where that's not there and it's not even close, we should still do what we can and just understand that this is the ebb and flow of sport, and this is the ebb and flow of progress. You're gonna have you're gonna have the days that are just amazing, and then you're gonna have the days that are average, and then you're gonna have the days that are shitty, and that's okay because you're gonna have a 100% day maybe in a week or soon. It's just how it happens. That's how it goes.
Yeah, I'm like I'm hoping it's this way, but like you know, whatever, I don't know stocks, but like S&P or whoever it is, it's like ups and downs, right? But if you look at the bigger picture, it's generally still going in an upwards trajectory.
Yeah.
Look at me using big words. So that's how I'm hoping it is. Because
that's how it is. Don't be saying that's how you're hoping it is. That's how it is.
In that moment, you know, where I'm like,
okay.
Oh my gosh, like I'm getting smoked today, and I'm like, well, these are going to lead to something later on. And that's how I kind of treat those off days too, where it's like the day is like destroying me, whatever the terminology I'm going to use. Mm-hmm. And like, no, whatever I do today is still putting, you know, some points on the scoreboard for tomorrow and the following days.
Yeah.
You guys do a little diagnostic and see if you're like, do you push it a little bit? Do you try to push it when there's nothing there just for a second, just to double check or triple check, or do you just say, fuck it?
Oh man, with jiu-jitsu, I try really hard to always maintain a constant, steady like control state. So I don't know if maybe that's me pushing it a certain way, but it's because Cassio, what he said on this podcast, like don't fight back, because if it's not there, like I might potentially hurt myself, or I might, like I said, get more frustrated because it's like, okay, this person who, like, let's say we're on the same level. We're both white belts. We go back and forth, and I'm like getting frustrated because like it's just not there today. And then I'm like, I'm going to try really hard and I'm going to try to whatever pass his guard, and it doesn't work. I feel twice as bad. So I just try to stay controlled and calm on the mats as much as possible. When it comes to lifting and stuff, I might do something like the sled or like the tib bar. Like, as silly as it is, I might jump on the new tib machine and just like, fuck, I'm just going to go till I cannot move anymore. That sort of thing.
Yeah. When you said that, I was thinking about it because in gym context, you know, when you walk in and you start moving weight, some days, okay, it's good. But some days there's just a place where you're at and you're just like, okay, I should keep things here. This is what I got. Let me keep this consistent tempo through this lifting session. Jiu-Jitsu is the exact same thing nowadays. I think in the past, when I was a lower belt, I would be like, fuck, I would try to push. I would try to do more than what my body and what my movement is currently giving me. And that would put me in a bad spot. But nowadays, I constantly do what my body gives me, right? So what that means is like, and it's hard to explain, but you can feel when just like maybe things aren't as smooth, certain things that you do, it's just not as clean, but I just do what my body gives me on that day. And there are certain days where it's like, again, everything's at 100%. I'm rolling with what my body's given me. The idea of, because in the gym, the idea of pushing past what your body gives you is maybe moving heavier load than you're supposed to be moving on that day, which leads to injury. In jiu-jitsu, the comparison would potentially be, instead of rolling at 60 or 70%, I try to roll at 100% capacity or something, and things just are erratic and they're not smooth, and that's not beneficial. At least for me, that's how it is. So like, I never bump up my intensity if the intensity is not there. I don't try to force it.
Yeah, for me with lifting, it was always like if I started to warm up and I was supposed to do like a 1 rep max, say it's like a 1 rep max partial range of motion bench press or something, benching off like a board or something like that. I would warm up and 315 just felt weird. It's like, oh, that's really weird. Then I would start to make my warm up different than normal. Maybe I would take 315 again, or maybe I would make smaller jumps as I got towards the desired weight for the day. And then if it was really bad and just didn't seem like there was anything there, I was like, okay, instead of a 1 rep max, how can I still squeeze something out of this? I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm with teammates. That's the other thing. Like when you're going to jiu-jitsu, it's not like you just like roll with somebody for, a couple minutes and you're not feeling it that day. And you're like, hey man, I'm out of here. See you guys later. It's kind of weird. Like you're kind of like leaving your team. You should be able to do that without any real explanation, but then people are going to be like worried about you. Like, what happened, man? Did you get hurt? Are you mad? Are you sad? Or like, what the fuck happened? Like, where'd you go? And you could just be like, oh, I just left because it just wasn't there today.
Yeah.
But it's difficult to do those things. So when I was in those moments where I still thought I needed to like push or lead or be there for the team, I was like, well, maybe let's do like 3 sets of 8. I have no idea what my weight is going to be so I don't have any expectations. I don't understand or know what 3 sets of 8 looks like benching off of 2 boards with a close grip, because I've never done it before. I haven't done it in years.
Yeah.
And so now we got a totally different thing, because I'm thinking 2 board, all right, at least 550, 575, at least should be in somewhere in there, maybe 6 plates. And I get to like 4 plates, and 4 plates just feels like a ton. Like, okay, well, we're way off. But now if I change it to sets of 8, I don't have a reference point to base it off of.
Yeah.
It's a totally different, it's almost like a totally different drill, totally different exercise in a way. So those were some of the things that I was able to do when I was competing that really helped. And I was still able to get in the work that I needed, and it still felt really good.
You helped me realize something, because like when I was mentioning kind of how I back off on those days that like I'm not feeling 100% in jiu-jitsu, the way I would back off when I was a lower belt was like, okay, if there's certain positions that somebody's going to take on me, I just let them kind of like, I'm not going to waste my energy trying to battle against this. Like, you have side control, I'm just going to fucking wait. You have this, I'm just going to kind of wait through it and see what I can manage. The way I do it now, or what ends up happening now, is I'll get to those positions and I'll just kind of cook people a little bit more. So if I get to side control on you, instead of immediately moving and progressing to a place where I'm going to go tap you, I'm going to cook you a little bit here so I can just like save some energy. Then I'll keep progressing. Or if I have a position where I have you controlled, you're going to stay here for a bit while
That's good, because you're still getting work in. They're still getting work in. And even though it kind of sucks for them, like, they need to get used to being uncomfortable and used to breathing in these weird positions, right?
But the thing is like, when you have more tools in the gym, right? When you understand, okay, I don't have it today, you know kind of how to back off on load. You know, okay, I'm just going to go through this. I'm just going to get to end range and work that. There are still things that you know you can do and progress without just increasing the weight and going as hard as you can. Because I think that's like what most people will want to do, or sometimes do if they're like it's an everyday pojada or go hard every day type of thing in the gym. It's like, okay, I'm just gonna go super hard today, but the next day they're feeling like shit. But when you have those tools in the gym, in jiu-jitsu, on those days where you're not 100%, you can still have very effective sessions, right? Without destroying yourself, without the next day being totally beat up. You can still be super effective.
Yeah. How do you think I should handle that situation? Because like what you're saying, like when you're maybe not at whatever percentage to like, get into that good position and then move on and maybe submit the person, and you're just cooking them. I'm the person that's getting cooked. And there might be also a day where I'm not feeling 100%. I do need to, because it's still fairly new, I do need to work on like the highs and lows of jiu-jitsu. Like one day I'm like, fuck yeah, dude, I'm whatever, entering any competition that comes my way. And then other days I'm like, I'm never competing again in my life. Like that's just how it feels. But on those days, as somebody who wouldn't be able to get somebody off of me like you, or even at white belt, like sometimes I can't get certain people off of me. How should I approach that? Should I just, I don't know, like sit in my prayer position and hope that like they make a mistake and then try to take advantage?
No, that's still problem solving. Like on those, when I was a lower belt and I had less tools, then if someone was cooking me in their side control or someone had my back, it wouldn't be like, I'm just going to give up and get tapped. It's like, this is where I am. This, like, today is a day where I'm just focusing on escapes. Because you're gonna, like, when you're new at jiu-jitsu, escaping is going to be the things that you're going to be learning how to do, right? Like people are putting you in bad positions all the time. And if you don't know how to escape, what do you think is going to happen when you get into a competition and someone gets you in side control?
Yeah, game
right?
over.
So it's not bad that today, for some reason, everyone's taking your back or everyone's getting you in side control. It's just like, this is a hole for you.
Yeah.
You need to like, you need to calmly figure out the technique to get out of these positions. And that doesn't mean you bench press the person off of you. That means that you do the things that you've been training and learning and implement them. Might be a little bit harder today because you're a little bit more tired, but you should still be able to do it.
Got it. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I'll like almost like I can't control what coach is gonna like what kind of practice coach is gonna draw up today. Like we might like whatever, I don't football terms, but like okay, special teams is getting a lot more work today. Like, well, fuck, I hate special teams, but it's like, well, that's what we're working on today, bud. So like, I'll just treat it that way.
Yeah.
I know for myself, a lot of times the best like performances, especially with something like running, which I'm still learning. A lot of it's just been like, I just went out and I was like, I'm just going to start super slow. Started out with like the slowest jog I could figure out. And then I would get warm. And then all of a sudden I'm like, wow, this feels different than normal. This feels better than normal. Let me push a little bit. And there was just like zero expectations. And on those days, I think I feel the most fulfilled. I feel the best about it. And on top of that, I tend to perform the best.
Yeah.
It's on the other days when I have an expectation set for myself of what I should do and what I'm supposed to do. And I fall short of that, or that's even just super challenging for that day, where I'm like, that really sucked, So I think trying to really lower your expectations, or maybe just change some of your interpretation of your expectations. Maybe your expectations shouldn't always be through the roof. Maybe you can kind of toggle them and adjust them in accordance to what's realistic for you for that particular day. And then also, like, can you zoom back? Can you, get a 30,000 foot view of your training over the last 2 years or 3 years? Like, are you doing better? Did you make progress? And what's the last 2 years look like? What's the last 6 months look like? What's the last 6 weeks? In this last 6 weeks, are you literally not improving? Like, should you be upset by the workout that you just did? Or should you be overly concerned about the next workout that you're going to do? Probably not. Like, you probably literally are making progress all the time. You're not giving yourself any credit for it. You're not seeing it. You're not paying attention to it. You're not recognizing all the different challenges you've thrown your way. And then also too, like, people are living their lives. Like, there's people that are between the ages of 25 and like 40 that are still, working on their career, working on building a family. Like, there's a lot of like real world shit going on. And you're crying about your jiu-jitsu class, you're crying about your shitty run that you did for the day. So trying to have perspective, like, hey, no, I've been doing better. I've been doing better for a long time. This is fucking sick. This is really cool. I'm going to continue at this. And what's it going to look like 2 or 3 years from now?
I think a really cool thing about what you mentioned there, and when you probably think back to it, it's like, think of like your good run days and your bad run days now. Compare those to your good run days and your bad run days last year. It's like your good run days last year are your bad run days this year, right? And that's a big deal, because when you start something new, there will be many days where you're like, most days might feel like, oh, bad day, bad day, bad day, bad day. Did you ever watch Jackie Chan Adventures?
I did not.
Oh, that's my generation. Yeah, whoever watched that, y'all know Bad Day, Uncle. But anyway, almost a lot of your days seem like bad days because it's a new thing, and that's the hardest hurdle, because it's like most days are bad days, even though they're actually good days because you're doing the thing, right? But after a year, then like you have good days, but then your bad days now were good days a year ago. Right? That's a big deal, man. Like,
yeah,
you're thinking about it.
I'm just thinking like, a life altering day a year ago is a terrible day today. Right? Like,
what do you mean?
If I show up to jiu-jitsu and I've hurt my feet and I get my ass choked and I get beat up the entire time.
Yeah.
Like, dude, what the fuck was that? A year ago, holy shit, I went to jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Like, that is huge, right? So that's a really good point.
Yeah.
I didn't think about it that way.
That's the thing what Mark just mentioned. You gotta like, you really need a perspective shift a little bit. Because when you start, that's fucking amazing. But now it's like, it's a mind fuck.
Strength is never weakness. Weakness never strength. Catch you guys later. Bye.
If you guys enjoyed this episode and you've been lifting for a while and you're wondering what mistakes you're making with your lifting, click this video right here. Mistakes that you're making as you're trying to build muscle, because there's quite a few of them, and we'll talk about that here. So click it. You want to build more muscle? You do. Click it.